war. What would you do? Would you leave your son? Would you leave your father? Would you leave your husband? Or would you stay and risk your entire life? Families were being ripped apart under the most tragic circumstances. And I read article after article, day after day, looking for every update that I could find on what was happening in Ukraine. And I discovered something that was even more confounding to me than the war itself, and that's that there were some people who supported this. There were people who supported Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I found this so unthinkable yet eye-opening that I had to find out more. It seemed so black and white to me, the whole invasion in Ukraine, but what I found out that was black to me was white to many other people. And I endeavored to understand how and why the Russian people could possibly support this. Support from the Russian population for the war in Ukraine is pretty hard to navigate. It is a communist country, and speaking out against the government is definitely not tolerated or encouraged at all. And do keep in mind that they have had the same president for over 20 years. This is a man who amended their constitution so that presidential terms don't expire. So one big kind of underlying reason for the Ukrainian support in this war is that it's just simply illegal to speak out against this special military operation in Ukraine. According to Radio Free Europe, as of March 12th, 13,800 people had been detained for their demonstrations or anti-war demonstrations. So really, considering the population of Russia, I guess that's not a huge number, but considering the penalty for protest is jail time, I think that's pretty significant. According to Russian state-controlled polling company FOM, there is an approval rating of 68% among the Russian people, and since then numerous polls have continued, and the number of Russians supporting the war has only increased. So additionally, since the beginning of the invasion, one thing that's significant to me is that Russia has not referred to it as a war. They strictly refer to it as a special military operation to free the Ukrainian people from the Nazi fascist government that they have in Ukraine. Russian propaganda has kind of orchestrated this narrative that the Ukrainians have actually been going to them for help to liberate them from their government. So again, in communist Russia, there is no freedom of the press. So all news agencies are government funded and run. And so really the people of Russia have only been allowed to hear what their government wants them to hear. And as RFL reminded me, it's actually illegal for any news agency to use the words war or invasion in Russia. So of course the people of Russia support this war. They think that Ukraine is living under Nazi rule. So absolutely, I would think that they would need to be safe too. The second reason the Russian government has used to explain is for protection. For decades, the Putin administration has been saying that the United States and our NATO allies are using Ukraine against Russia to weaken Russia. This past July, Putin actually published his own essay in which he said, and I quote, "Russians and Ukrainians are one people, a single whole. Modern Ukraine is entirely the product of the Soviet era. It was shaped for significant part on the lands of historical Russia, and we will never allow our historical territories or people close to us living there to be used against us." So as a special military operation rages on, nearing the third month, it seems pretty clear to me that there are actually two wars going on. One is a war in Ukraine by the Russian invaders, and the second is a war of information in Russia. And one of these wars, the Russian military has not had many victories, but the other, it seems like they won decades ago, and they've been fighting pretty hard to control ever since.
Right, that's clear for us. If you could write your feedback. All right, is everybody done? Or you all need more time? You're done. Okay, so whoever wants to be the next speaker? Want to go? Okay, all right. Okay, second. Oh, whenever you're ready, you can go. Josh. That's Joshua, okay.
When you hear the term Muslim, what goes through your head? When you hear about Islam, what do you think about? Do you think about a Middle Eastern family, someone in traditional Arabic clothing, perhaps a friend, or maybe even yourself? Or does your brain go down a darker route? Do you think of horrible things like terrorism and Islamophobia? Despite being the second largest religion in the world, Islam is riddled with misconception and misunderstanding. I, for one, know that I didn't know anything about Islam except for the very surface of this. To counteract this misinformation and misunderstanding, I decided to research the most well-known Muslim holiday, Ramadan. I wanted to answer the question, what is Ramadan? How does one observe Ramadan? And how did Ramadan come to be? To start off, we must begin with the simple question of what is Ramadan? It is described in the Encyclopedia Britannica of the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and the holy month of fasting. The time in which the 9th month occurs changes every year, as it is based around the cycles of the moon and not the traditional American calendar. Meaning Ramadan can occur in any month during any season, but whenever it happens, it's observed in the same ways. It is described as a period of atonement and self-reflection, because the people observing Ramadan fast during the day, staying clear of impure thoughts and earthly desires, instead focusing on self-reflection and prayer. After the sun sets, Muslims partaking in Ramadan hold a communal nightly prayer to Allah, the Arabic word for God. After these prayers are finished, Muslims have iftar, which is a large communal meal where they come together as a family and a community. After this, Muslims are free to eat until dawn, and then the cycle of fasting, praying, and communal eating repeats itself for the whole month. Ramadan ends with Eid al-Fitr, or the Feast of Fast Raising, where Muslims enjoy festivities, large group meals, coming together as a community, officially ending Ramadan with a prayer at daybreak. So how did Ramadan come to be? What caused the 9th month of the Islamic calendar to become this monumental holy event? According to National Geographic, in 610, the angel Gabriel revealed himself to the Prophet Muhammad and revealed the Quran, the Islamic holy book. This revelation coincided with the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, Ramadan. To commemorate this monumental event, Muslims celebrate by fasting for the month and giving thanks to Allah for revealing the Quran through the Prophet Muhammad. And over time, this practice has continued for thousands of years all across the world as Islamic influence spread from its birthplace in the Middle East to being worldwide. Now that we know what Ramadan is, we can dive deeper into the specifics about how one goes about observing Ramadan, looking specifically into the do's and don'ts of this holy month. The most important tradition when it comes to observing Ramadan is a fast. During the day, or as is it called in Arabic, Sawm. The fast begins with a pre-dawn meal, which is supposed to sustain the observing Ramadan people throughout the day until they can eat again at sunset. When sunset does come, there is a call to prayer, and after prayer ends the Muslim fasting. Traditionally, observers start with a brief meal of dates and water before the larger meal called iftar, where they eat traditional Arabic foods with friends and family and bring the Muslim community together. But what if someone can't fast? Fortunately, Islam has a rule of necessity, so if someone who's pregnant, ill, or elderly can either make up the days later or atone by participating in charity. Ramadan traditions also involve decorations much like the Western holidays of Christmas and Easter. When it comes to ending Ramadan, it's celebrated with Eid al-Fitr. Muslims traditionally hold special prayers, meals, gift-giving events for 3 days ending Ramadan. During this time of researching Ramadan, I learned a lot, not only about the holiday and what it entails, but those who follow Islam. In the Western world, the closest event we have to Ramadan is Lent, where Christians give up meat before Easter. This obviously doesn't require the same amount of commitment and dedication seen by Muslims during the month of Ramadan, where they cannot eat for a whole month, the fast for a whole month. This shows the dedication and strength of millions of Muslims who participate in Ramadan and show me that Islam is a religion about sacrifice, family, and community.
All right, that was Joshua for us. Where's Sebastian?
Right.
Oh, that's okay. All right, okay. All right, that's Joshua. And please provide your comments and then please email it to him. Hopefully you were also able to email Leah. No, just like and now please record your response to me and then please send it to Josh. I'm done then. I'm done. right, if you are ready, could we have the next speaker, please? Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Eve for us, and okay, Eve, whenever you're ready, please go.
Okay. So I signed up for a new gym on Saturday. I was really excited about it. The difference about the gym that I just signed up for is it's a powerlifting gym, so they have like bodybuilding competitions there and everything. And it's really scary. I walked in and there's just like airbrushed murals everywhere of like Arnold and like massive dudes picking up really heavy stuff. And like people are on steroids there, and it's very intense. But I really like it because they have great machines and it's really cheap. So I'm going to this new gym. And because of that, I decided to listen to the fat acceptance movement for 2 weeks because that's pretty extreme on the other end of fitness. So anyway, that's where I started with this, with the exploration of the question of like, where should health actually be between these two? Because that gym is a shocker, but also like accepting being unhealthy is really weird to me because I work out all the time. So I started with, there's an organization, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. It was founded in 1969, so it's been around for a while. It's in New York. It's actually like world recognized and it's volunteer based. And from their website, they said that they don't want to be generalized as disease, at medical risk, or with tax strains. But if you're overweight, like you have hypertension or you have like high blood pressure, or like there's a bunch of medical risks that come with being extremely overweight. But they want to be accepted as fat without like the medical stigma that comes with it. So that was really weird to me. And then I continued reading, and the like main arguments, one of them was about like the doctor's office, and they did a bunch of studies, and what they found is 62% of fat women experience stigmatizing behavior in the doctor's office, and then 50% of doctors actually describe their fat patients as awkward, unattractive, ugly, and non-compliant. And those were like the words that doctors used towards these people. So that's really weird too. I think in learning that was really interesting because, I mean, like I come from like a fit background. I go to the doctor. I don't really have to deal with that stuff. I go for a cold. I take care of the cold. You know, it's not all of my medical history is brought into that cold. So I can understand where they're coming from with that. And then the other like main topic that they would bring up is the work stigmatization that they're like hoping we could just like accept fat people through instead of like stigmatizing them for being fat. And they did studies again, and they found that there's like an increase in the reports of weight stigma and prejudice in the workplace in the U.S., which means that there's disadvantages in hiring and wages because of people's weight, even if the job doesn't require fitness. And the main study that was used for like every article that I read was the Puel and Brunel 2001 clinical study. It was just two doctors, and they went around and they surveyed a bunch of people. And what they found was when they surveyed, like overweight people, they found 25% experienced job discrimination due to weight, 54% experienced weight stigmatization from coworkers, and 43% experienced it from employers or supervisors, which means that they have like derogatory humor towards them or like differential treatment because of their weight, even if the job doesn't encourage weight. So like I started with like, I don't really agree with the fat acceptance movement and I'm going to stay fit. And after like reading through all that, I can understand where they're coming from in terms of like, you shouldn't have to deal with, you know, bringing your weight into things that don't really have anything to do with weight. In terms of fitness though, I think my conclusion from like all of the reading that I did was like, I can understand that they don't like the discrimination. I can understand that we shouldn't be bringing it into stuff like that. And I think like both sides of the health field or like fitness is toxic. I mean, the gym I'm going to is definitely toxic. It's not healthy. And then the fat acceptance movement isn't necessarily healthy either because it's, both are extremes. So I think health should just be, I think my definition after reading this was like a continuation of improvement, typically within or like a little bit beyond like medical recommendation. Anything further than that is probably a hobby. It's not a necessity. Like I look at it as a necessity. That doesn't mean it's everybody's necessity. And then I would like to close with a quote by Socrates. He said, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable." So I think people should go out and like see the beauty and strength that their body is capable of instead of just accepting kind of a state of failure. And that's what I got from that. Thank you.
That was it for us. If you could write your comments. What is called fat acceptance rule.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready, the next speaker, take your time. Okay, all right. All right. Second, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
All right, now imagine a world without colonization, a world where every nation can develop and mature at its own pace, and eventually reap benefits that were never thought possible. So, for instance, um, a lot of indigenous people from around the world, I've realized, I've done my research, and I came up to a conclusion that all indigenous people have the love and the care for Mother Nature, other than being, slack in industrial development and all that. It seems to me that all nations, developed nations nowadays, thrive towards that sustainable and that go green, type of way of living. But if you understand, if you study history, the indigenous people all around the world has already practiced that, and it is because of colonization that all of those beliefs and cultures were eradicated during the genocide period. So to understand a bit about colonization and why it occurred, so colonization occurred during the first industrial revolution that the world had, where it was heavily centralized in Europe, where they needed a lot of natural resources, a mass amount of natural resources for people that live in Europe to enjoy what they have today. And where do they find those resources? They went out to countries in Africa. They went out to countries in Southeast Asia to allocate all those natural resources. And the way that that was put forth was heinous, and it was really sad to understand and to see. Is because if you during the period, the British led the way for colonization, and the British taught their kids, they taught the students in the universities that basically white people, and basically if you have if you are born white and if you are born blue eyes, blonde hair, you have the higher hierarchy than a human in human civilization. And so a quick introduction about Malaysia is because Malaysia used to be one of the first countries in Asia to be conquered and to be colonized by the Europeans. And there are three repercussions, and they are all correlated that I would like to talk about, is the social repercussions, the political repercussions, and the economic repercussions that till this day we face because of colonization. So a brief history about Malaysia is the British actually brought in the Chinese, which I am, and the Indians into Malaysia. And right now we have three main races. The majority is the Malays, which they consider themselves the natives of the country. And then we have the Chinese and we have the Indians. So after 3 generations of independence, you can see the social repercussions from the sense that we have segregated schools in Malaysia. So you have Chinese schools, you have Indian schools, and you have Malay schools. Now it's not mandatory for you to send your kids to the schools of your choose of race, but once you have the option for that, you're obviously going to send your kids to the race that you're most comfortable with the culture that you're most comfortable with. And all of these policies were all set up by the British. So when they came, they had a whole plan. They had a whole plan about divide and conquer, about all the to all the race in Malaysia. So basically, the communities were segregated. The Malays weren't allowed to live in a city because their motive and the British motive for the Malays are for agricultural and for plantation. So they were only set to the rural places in Malaysia. And even till this day, in Malaysia, you can observe that the cities are mostly filled by Chinese and Indians. And if you travel to the parts of Malaysia, the rural parts of Malaysia, it's all filled by the native and the Malays. And it's because of what the British did that created that hatred the Malays have for the Chinese. They have this stigma against like how, if we have to protect our culture and we have to protect what we have, instead of understanding that Malays and Indians are also Malaysians. You know, we are also a part of the country. We are also a part of the culture that the Malay people that gives. And this is one of the problems that is not just faced by Malaysia, but faced by all countries around the world that have been colonized. And the next thing I'd like to talk about is the political repercussions. So the final thing about about the repercussions politically in Malaysia comes with the fact that you can't be a prime minister if you're not a Malay. You know, so you have to be a native to if you have to be the prime minister or to be integrated in the majority side of politics. So to conclude my speech, um, it's been it's been a experience to come to the States and experience that to actually know that everyone here has complete freedom. Everyone here has complete sovereignty and rights to live, to choose the life they want to live. But instead, 80% or like 70% of the world has don't have that right. So thank you.
That's Ian. How do you pronounce it? Ian?
Yeah.
Ian, yes. That's Ian for us. I am done. Uh-huh.
Okay. Many people deal with anxiety and depression. You may have no passion for anything, and simply getting out of bed is impossible. I never thought that I would ever deal with anxiety or depression, but after experiencing life hardships, I realized that these feelings can be inevitable, and anybody can be affected by them. We need to be prepared to duke it out with our own worst enemy, which would be ourselves. Even though I experience depression and anxiety, I've been learning a lot of different habits to fight back and snap my mind out of a dark place. I'm not trying to downplay that depression and anxiety are caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, but I am trying to emphasize that our own habits can aid us in dealing with the darkness and negativity that comes with depression and anxiety. Depression alters someone's lifestyle, so intentionally altering your lifestyle again for positivity is a way to help fight back. Some of the ways that I do this myself are incorporating small habits into my lifestyle. There's a book that I highly recommend called Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is about positive habits and how to add them into your daily routine. Life is made of small moments, and so adding small habits into those small moments can have monumental effects for your daily routine. One of the ways that I do this is just simply tracking my water intake. It's an easy habit to add into my day, and it makes me feel healthier, I'm hydrated, and I feel better. Another cool trick you can use is the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is a countdown method that interrupts negative thoughts and self-doubt. You simply count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you jump up. Don't argue with yourself and do the tasks that you were avoiding, whether that's chores, self-hygiene, or working out. I use this in my own life mostly for working out, and it might sound silly, but I dare you to try it, as it could have monumental effects in your daily life. Another great lifestyle change that you can implement into your own life is the Wim Hof method. Some of you may have heard of the Wim Hof method before. I highly recommend looking into Wim Hof and his method. He was a Dutchman who came up with this after his wife committed suicide. He's also known as the Iceman. So the Wim Hof method is 3 parts. It's breathing techniques with meditation and cold exposure. So I challenged myself to incorporate the Wim Hof method for the entire month of February. And the effects were pretty awesome. He has a beginner guided breathing tutorial on YouTube and an intermediate guided tutorial on YouTube for free. And for the cold exposure, he recommends doing an ice bath. I can't do that yet. So I did 2 minutes of cold exposure with a cold shower. And then for meditating, I read my Bible and meditated on the teachings. So for the effects of this in my own life were really quite astounding. It really shocked my body and mind and soul, and it forced me to take a positive action. I felt a lot better. I didn't feel groggy in my mind. I didn't feel like a zombie. And overall, it was really beneficial. And again, I would challenge you all to maybe try to take a cold shower sometime this week and see what happens. But obviously with the speech, I did the journaling challenge. I journaled for 2 weeks and wrote down some of the things that I was grateful for. Some of these things were my family, my pets. I have 2 dogs, sports, and the sunshine that we had on Saturday. Journaling is awesome. You can literally journal about anything. It gives you time to reflect on positivities that you experienced in your day or your week. You can track any type of growth, spiritual, mental, emotional. And it gives you an opportunity to record positive affirmations for yourself, rather than beating yourself up, which is a lot, which comes with depression and negative thoughts. So, in conclusion, we all deal with depression and anxiety. What helps me is an extreme behavior that forces myself to kind of wake up and snap out of it. I found that in my own life, cold exposure and the 5-second rule have been really beneficial. And then once I'm in my right of mind, I just like to journal what I'm grateful for, or things that bring me peace or peace of mind. So it's important to immerse yourself in positivity. We are what we consume, so consume positivity.
That's the Hannah for us. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready for the next speaker. Whenever you're ready. Armando. Okay. Right, Armando, whenever you are ready, you can go.
Have you guys heard about the conspiracy theory that the soaring fuel prices in the U.S. are not the result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine uh, or the coronavirus pandemic, but is a scheme that President Biden's administration is intentionally driving up the price of gas to get more American drivers behind the wheels of electric cars. It sounds crazy, and I don't actually believe conspiracy theories, but whether it is true or not, uh, I think most of us are eventually going to end up driving electric vehicles in the future. The state of California is now requiring only the sale of zero emission passenger vehicles by 2035. And that is a little more than 10 years from now. And there are also 15 other states that are planning to follow California's lead. In view of all the talks about electric vehicles, let me give you some information about it. According to Aaron Gold's article from motortrend.com, the cheapest electric car that you can get at present is the Nissan Leaf for $28,365. So that tells us the price of electric vehicles are actually going down. And depending on which state you live in, you could be eligible for a federal tax credit. Fueleconomy.gov shows all electric vehicles that are eligible for up to 7,500 tax credits. And according to Illinois Environmental Protection Agency's Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, beginning July 1st of this year and continuing as long as the funds are available, Illinois will offer a $4,000 rebate for all used and new electric vehicle purchases. So these tax credits and the rebates are definitely going to help you if you're seriously considering buying an electric car. So when it comes to vehicle maintenance, based on Devon Taylor's article from walletgenius.com, a new electric vehicle doesn't need oil changes, air filters, transmission fluid, or emissions tests, therefore will require significantly less maintenance than gasoline-powered vehicles. A new electric vehicle will save owners at least $300 annually in general maintenance costs, and could be as high as $800 a year. So one big factor to consider, though, is after some number of years, the battery will need to be replaced, which can be really expensive, depending on the make and model of the car. So electric vehicle is cheaper to maintain as long as the battery doesn't go bad. So let me tell you about the charging stations available. The U.S. Department of Energy website's Alternative Fuels Data Center shows you a map of all charging stations in the U.S. and Canada. It also tells you about the charging levels and connectors available in those charging stations. There are three different levels of charging for electric vehicles. Level 1 is the slowest charging level, but you can use 120 volt outlet in the garage. That will take a whole day to charge your electric vehicle. Level 2 is a slightly more complicated setup, plugs into a 240 volt outlet, and can fully charge an electric vehicle in a couple of hours. But you're gonna most likely need an electrician to install the 240 volt charger in your garage. The level 3 is the fastest charging level, which can fully charge an electric vehicle in less than an hour. But this charging is only available in public charging stations. So let me tell you about the environmental impact of electric vehicles. The major benefit of electric vehicles is the way it improves the air quality in the environment due to the absence of the tailpipe that can produce carbon dioxide emissions. While the emissions created during the production of lithium-ion battery for electric vehicles are considered high, it is expected to change for the better as the technology advances some more. So I think that the way that the big oil producing countries are using oil as some kind of a weapon to assert their power among all the other countries in the world. The fast growth of electric vehicles is a very welcome development that would make every country become less dependable on oil usage. So most of us may not be able to afford electric vehicles at this time, but we just have to give it a little more time, and they're going to be available for all.
That was wonderful. Q&A, 1 second, everybody. There's whenever you're ready, please start.
All right, my topic is about one of the greatest philosophers that ever lived, and his name is Plato. I find most of some of his ideologies quite interesting, and why he's the greatest, one of the greatest philosophers. Plato was born between 427 to 347 BC in Athens. And according to the book, 101 great philosophers, makers of modern Modern Thought by Madsen Curry uh, ranks um, his his philosophy ideas to the home to our civilization between the Western tradition of European and American thinkers. His lifestyle and ideas were adopted through his mentor, Socrates. Socrates mentored and taught Plato um, a lot of philosophy ideas in school, and as well as Plato uses Socrates in most of his works. Most of Plato's works uh, were described as dialogues, and the dialogues were always involving Socrates and others, not involving himself. So early in his life, when Plato met Socrates, he called Socrates as the just man that ever lived, because he loved everything about Socrates. Also, Plato was a favorite student uh, for Socrates because he kind of adopted most of his ideologies. Socrates taught Plato a lot of ideologies, which one is the Socratic method, which means engaging people um, in dialectical inquiry, finding their knowledge and stuff like that. Um, as a mentee, Plato linked that by exploring the meaning of things is exploring the meaning of things were the same as um, justice and love. I'm not sure with this one, but he adopted the philosophical ideas by exploring the meaning of things. And the meaning of things, he focused more on justice and love, which Socrates was also doing the same. He had three elements of human being. He had three elements about humans, which uh, he called three elements. He had three elements of a human being, which he named them appetite, which seeks satisfaction of your soul; spirited, which is like, for instance, courage; and then the mind, which kind of shows your intellect to the society. Um, Also, the most popular ideology of Plato was his ideology of Platonic love, which I heard in high school, and I found it very interesting. I wanted to learn more about that. The question is, how can someone who speaks less about himself become so popular or greatest? Platonic love, I looked into Platonic love, and it shows to me as an unconditional love, and it's rare, it's rare in our society currently. It's hard to find, and I, the reason why Plato is an influence to our society now is because I think if we can have a platonic love in the society, it can help the society in a in a greater way, because there's nobody that's going to do something for you without getting any benefits from you. And platonic is unconditional love, and love that is indulged and not getting anything back. Thank you.
Derek, for us?
First speaker.
Okay. All right, so it's about 7:27 right now, class. Sudarshan, is going now. Okay, all right. Okay. So, all right, so it's about 7:27. I take about a 5 to 6 minute break and then come back, use the bathroom or the stretch, and then come back, and then we start the next part of the class. Seven 7:33-ish.
Hey, Professor, where do we turn in our evaluation doc?
It should be there, and let me just show it one second.
Can you just say how to paste it?
Yeah. What submissions are the right submission.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, you got it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, let's start with this one. I'm just going to post this. So chapter 19, we will be covering chapter 19. So I just want to make sure you all have this, downloads. Okay, all right. And I want to put it right here in the PowerPoint. This is, oh, it was already there, really? Okay. Now, okay, okay. All right. Instructor PowerPoint? No, it wasn't there. So all you have is your informative speech. I'm posting this one right now in front of you. Persuasive speech. This is all the information that you need till the end of the semester. Okay. And then, of course, your chapter 19 from your online textbook. All right. Persuasive speech, local files, downloads, here, it's in. Okay. So it should be right here, all the information that you need, and then of course your online textbook. If you go to online textbook, what we are going to cover in the next few weeks. So we are today, this is the 25th. So we have one whole week and then two actually. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you the schedule, but this is chapter 19. This is from your online textbook. So if you look at chapter 19 here, is like section 78, why persuade, a definition of persuasion. Why is persuasion hard? Traditional views of persuasion, constructing a persuasive speech. It's something that you guys, all of you need to read from your online textbook. And of course, all my lectures, which will be pretty much a big chunk of your prep for your persuasive speech, is this one, is my PowerPoint here. So read the on chapter 19, and then of course I'll go through all my PowerPoint slides and some of the important concepts that you need to know. And what else? So I have how are we doing on time? 7:38, not bad. What I'm going to do today, class, I'm not going to keep it very intensive on lecture today, because you guys just did your speech. So I will again, but of course I will be giving you a good heads up on what's coming, what your persuasive speech, so that all of us are able to decide what we want to do by our next class. Okay, by next class, everybody should tell me what topic they have. And in our next class, I'm going to introduce what persuasive speech, kind of like an idea, good idea about persuasion. All right, that's what I want to do today. And I'll also be introducing Maslow's hierarchy of needs today and persuasion. And then I'll give you a list of topics that I have generated, which and you have a little in-class assignment on that one. So that's what we're going to do today. By next week, I need to know what topic you've chosen for your persuasive speech. So that's your and then basically read chapter 19, look at my PowerPoint slides, and just, that's what you need to do. We keep it light. When you come to our to class next week, which is Monday, I'm going to show you where we are. Okay, so when you come to class next Monday, which is May 2nd, that's when we will be doing, right, actually I'll be talking about two concepts, okay? So it'll be an intensive class. We will be talking about two concepts that I want to cover. You could choose either one concept, concept / model that you can use as a template for your persuasive speech. So we're going to discuss that in class and right away use that template to work on our persuasive speech. Okay, so that we get done with the writing, and by the end of the class you're done with the writing and you can submit it to me, and then of course later on you can make changes. Okay, so that's what the idea is. All right. So what I want you to do. Okay, let me first start, and then I can give you a question. All right. All right. Yeah, I can show that to you a little later. What's your homework for next week? I can show that to you later. But right now, what I will do is, okay, I want to play this documentary. For lack of time, we won't have. It's an hour-and-a-half documentary. We don't have the time to do that, right? So I want to play about maybe about a good 25 minutes is good for you to get a idea of what the documentary is.
In summary, next week we just need what our topic is for the speech.
Yeah.
We don't need an outline or anything.
No, you don't need an outline.
Okay.
We'll do that next. We'll do that in class. So you just need to. There are a few more things that I want you to do. You need to come up with a speech topic and some sources. Okay.
So do you need like an annotated
bibliography? Okay. Yeah. So what the hell documentary? Okay. Okay, so here we go. All right, I have it here. Oh, no, not okay. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to play this clip for you. That's not a clip. So if you watch about 20-25 minutes, you should be. If we don't, for lack of time, we will not be able to watch the whole hour-and-a-half of the documentary. So if the 20-25 minutes will give you a good idea about the topic. So okay, so this will be a good preview to our persuasive speech. This gentleman here who's created this documentary is very clearly has an agenda. Okay, has a very clear agenda. Is trying to persuade you. All right. So I want you to watch this, and I'm not going to give you a whole lot of information, but this person has an agenda and he wants you to adopt his position. Okay. So now I do want to give you, a little bit of a background. Is that he, as you can see, this was bought out. This whole documentary was bought out by Netflix. Okay, initially. And I was following this. So it was on Netflix, and then they opened it up to the public. They put it on YouTube. Okay, so he's trying to, which makes sense because he's trying to create, not everybody has Netflix, he's trying to create a movement out of this. He's created a website, and I see that every time he changes it. So this time it's very, he's kind of made a business out of this. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. I'm just saying what it is. So this is he's first created a movie, a documentary, which was taken. Netflix bought it, and then he opened it up on YouTube so it can be watched by anyone. And then he's created this website. It's called What the Hell. It's a pretty good organized website. You can see, what's the film online. There's a merchandise here he's selling that will create funds to fund his campaign. Then he's created a new meal planner. He's created that. So you can create a 30-day challenge about facts, host a screening, meal plan. As you can see, watch online. If you want to take a 30-day challenge of becoming a vegan, you can do that. And their meal plan, see what on-demand, friendly experts, personalized recipes, menu, shopping list, grocery delivered. And so he has this whole thing all on the website. Okay, this wasn't as that good. I've been following him from since 2017. So he keeps making these changes. I'm not very sure how much this company has made money. I'm not sure about that. I wasn't able to do any research on that. I don't know whether any information is there, whether how much money is made. But yeah, so let's go and see why did Netflix actually buy his documentary? Must have been good because Netflix usually will screen. So let's watch that 20-25 minutes, and then we start a discussion. I would like to know, and I don't want to feed this in your head, but I would like to know whether you were persuaded by what he said. I want to know if you want to make any shift or any changes in your life as a result of what you watched. If you say no, I'm not going to, that's fine. Tell me what would make you shift or change your position. Okay. And if you seem that, okay, yes, I've been informed and I now want to make a change, well then, I think his charm has worked, his persuasion strategies have worked. So either ways, what worked for you and what did not work for you? I want to know that. And then we have a discussion on how persuasion works. So what's this? It's pretty engaging. You can, one second, where did I just showed it, right? What the hell? Yeah, here. We watched the first 25 minutes. Won't have time. If you want to watch it at home, go ahead.
Worldwide, we're looking at approximately 350 million people with diabetes. There's no question that we're in the midst of a diabetes epidemic. Right now, 1 in 3 Medicare dollars is spent in the care of people with diabetes. 1 in 10 total healthcare dollars is spent on people with diabetes. There's no question that this is a major problem.
What in particular is the correlation with the diet and diabetes?
I'm not going to get into that.
Into diet?
No.
My name's Kip. I'm a filmmaker from San Francisco and I have a confession to make. I'm a recovering hypochondriac. Like so many of us, I have a family history of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. My dad had his first heart bypass at 49, the second at age 50. My grandpa died young from diabetes complications, and both my other grandpa and grandma died of cancer. I was always paranoid that I would also get one of these diseases. Like any good hypochondriac, WebMD Symptoms Checker was essentially my browser's homepage. Even in my teens, I took Metamucil every day and a daily aspirin. I read all the latest self-diagnosis books. I ate every multivitamin I could get my hands on, and I was obsessed with bodily functions. I followed all the large health organizations' recommendations for preventing disease. I exercise regularly, don't smoke, don't drink soda, get enough sleep, reduce stress, and grew up eating what I thought was a healthy diet. Until
The World Health Organization this morning has classified processed meats such as bacon and sausage as carcinogenic, directly involved in causing cancer in humans.
Processed meat is clearly linked to an increase in cancer. Hot dogs or bacon could be just as dangerous as smoking cigarettes.
the World Health Organization had looked at over 800 studies from 10 different countries, finding a direct link to consuming processed meat and cancer. Just one serving of deli meats daily increases your risks of colorectal cancer by 18%. I had no idea that what we ate affected cancer rates, but I never felt like I had eaten a lot of processed meats until I realized that processed meat includes hot dogs, bacon, sausage, salami, ham, pepperoni, cold cuts, and deli slices, basically everything I grew up eating. The World Health Organization classifies processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same group as cigarettes, asbestos, and plutonium, and classifies red meat as a Group 2 carcinogen. Was this like I had essentially been smoking my entire childhood? If processed meats are labeled the same as cigarettes, how is it even legal for kids to be eating this way? I thought this was new information, but many of these studies have been around for 50 years. I couldn't believe I'd been eating processed meats virtually my entire life and was just now finding out how dangerous they are. Why hadn't I been hearing about it from the American Cancer Society, the largest cancer group in the nation? When I went on their website, I was shocked to see that none of this information was featured on their homepage. But even more shocking, on their Eat Healthy page, they actually encouraged eating Group 1 carcinogenic foods like processed turkey and canned meats. This is after the World Health Organization reviewed over 800 studies definitively linking processed meat to cancer.
Thank you for calling your American Cancer Society. My name is Sam. I'm a cancer information specialist. How may I help you today?
Hi, I was calling because I was wondering why you all recommend people eat processed meat on your website, which the World Health Organization has classified as a Group 1 carcinogen, which is in the same class as tobacco smoking, asbestos, and plutonium. This would be like a lung association having a how to roll your own cigarette section on their website. It's kind of the same thing.
Well, let me just place you on a brief hold because
He wasn't able to answer my questions and said someone would get back with me. I had always been concerned about cancer because both my grandma and grandpa died of cancer. I wondered if things would have been different had they known the link between diet and this terrible disease. In the US, 1 out of every 4 deaths is from cancer. Oh, sweet. American Cancer Society rep confirmed an interview this week. So we just went in for the interview with the American Cancer Society rep, and the security guard said there's no interview scheduled. So I went into my phone, and it turns out last night, after I told her that the interview is going to be about the correlation between diet and cancer, she said she could no longer do the interview. After repeated emails asking why she was declining my interview to simply talk about diet and cancer, she stopped responding altogether. Why would an American Cancer Society rep not want to talk about this? I was, however, able to connect with a growing movement of doctors who are willing to talk about the link between the standard American diet and disease. And it goes beyond just cancer. I took my old trusty van, Super Blue, once again out on the road.
2/3 of adults are now overweight or obese, and we have an epidemic cascade of debilitating disease that's overcoming the country. There's no way we can sustain the current style of care with the epidemic that we're creating with our diet and lifestyle choices.
The diabetes, the arthritis, the heart disease, the dementia, the obesity, the cancers are affecting about 70% of deaths. All the data is that those 70% of deaths and morbidity are largely lifestyle related and preventable.
Most kids by age 10 in the US already have fatty streaks in their arteries, the first stage of atherosclerosis leading to heart attacks, strokes,
Here in American medicine, we operate from the disease model. We are in the business of treating sick people. We are not in the business of trying to prevent people from becoming sick.
When you look at chronic disease risk, all the things that we walk around worrying about, actually dietary choices trump smoking when it comes to those risks.
If I could deliver one message to the researchers who are looking for the cause of diabetes and the cause of clogged arteries and the cause of high blood pressure and the cause of obesity, I would tell them the answer is in 3 words. It's the food. It's what Americans are eating.
Today, with 2/3 of Americans being overweight, clearly there's a food issue. In the next 25 years, 1 out of every 3 Americans will have diabetes.
My name's Michael Abdallah. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And unfortunately, I was diagnosed about 10 years ago with diabetes. And 8 years ago, I had 2 stents put in. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. You're just like out of options and you don't know what to do. You're taking medicine. You listen to this doctor and the cardiologist says, take this. And the endocrinologist says, take that. Then your general practitioner doctor says, you don't know what's going on here. And it's a real challenging thing. And it's something that you don't want to get it. You just don't want to get it.
Government and media almost exclusively blame lack of exercise and sugary foods as a cause of diabetes. But I wanted to talk with an actual expert on the role of diet diabetes. I went to speak with premier physician, diabetes expert, and researcher, Dr. Neil Barnard. What role does sugar play in causing diabetes?
Drives me crazy. Diabetes is not and never was caused by eating a high carbohydrate diet, and it's not caused by eating sugar. The cause of diabetes is a diet that builds up the amount of fat into the blood. I'm talking about a typical meat-based, animal-based diet. You can look into the muscle cells of the human body, and you find they're building up tiny particles of fat that's causing insulin resistance. What that means is the sugar that is naturally from the foods that you're eating can't get into the cells where it belongs. It builds up in the blood, and that's diabetes.
I had never heard that meat was associated with causing diabetes. We'd always been told that sugar and obesity caused it. Renowned weight loss bariatric surgeon Dr. Garth Davis, though, agreed.
Everyone thinks that you get diabetic because of carbs. They did a huge study, in that EPIC study, 500,000 people. Carbs consumption was inversely related to diabetes. In other words, the more carbs someone ate, the less diabetes they had. But meat was strongly correlated. Get that aha moment. The starches, the carbs are good for you. They're not bad for you. This idea that carbs make you fat is utterly ridiculous. Carbs cannot make you fat in and of themselves. We have storage in our muscles and in our liver for carbs called glycogen. So when we eat carbs, we either store it or we burn it. Now, eat fat, that goes straight to your fat. Your body can't turn those carbs into fat unless you're really overdoing calories. Obesity, it's a death sentence. You are at much higher risk of getting cancer. You're almost certainly going to get diabetes. I mean, no one wants to fat shame, and we all want everybody to be comfortable with our bodies, but this movement to be comfortable with our bodies has made us comfortable with being sick. And that's a huge problem. I go into the hospital, I look around me, people on dialysis, all these sick people, and just about every disease in there is because of what people are eating. Here's the thing.
If I eat a sugary cookie, the sugar lures you in like the Trojan horse, but waiting inside that cookie is a huge load of butter or shortening, and that's what fattens you up. And that's the part that leads to the diabetes. It's the fatty food, not really so much the sugar.
Not that sugar is good for you. There's no nutrients in it. It's excess calories. But when you eat sugar, you don't get inflammation right away. When you eat sugar, you're not getting plaques forming in your vessels. When you're eating sugar, your body's going to store most of it as glycogen or burn it as calories. And so this focus on sugar has taken all the focus off meat, dairy, eggs, pork, turkey, chicken.
People need to understand. You know, if their child gets diabetes, you've just taken 19 years off their lifespan. We're talking life and death.
I realized there was so much more about diet disease that I hadn't ever learned. It felt as if this information had been practically withheld. Processed meat causes cancer. Sugar doesn't cause diabetes. I had doubt about the claims these doctors were making, so I did some searching on my own. Harvard researchers looked at 9 prospective studies finding that just 1 serving of processed meat per day increased risk of developing diabetes by 51%. The link between eating meat and developing diabetes became undeniable. But when I went on the leading diabetes organization's website, the American Diabetes Association, not only did they not have this information front and center, they were featuring recipes for red and processed meat. And on their recipes for healthy living, they had bacon-wrapped shrimp. What the hell?
All right, send an email to the American Diabetes Association, see if they'll get back to us.
As destructive as diabetes is, it pales in comparison to heart disease. Over 17 million people die every year from cardiovascular disease. It is the leading cause of death around the world. Nearly 1 out of every 3 people will die from this disease. The amount of people who die from cardiovascular disease is the equivalent of 4 jumbo jets crashing every single hour, every single day, every single year.
My name is Amy Resnick, and I'm from Swampscott, Massachusetts, a little bit north of Boston. And I recently went to my doctor for asthma because I had a very hard time breathing. And while there, she did some blood work. And one of the tests was C-reactive protein. And there was a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being low for cardiac event, 3 being high for cardiac event. And my number was 10.82.
What does that mean?
That means I am on the road for a heart attack. And she said probably within the next 30 days.
30 days?
30 days, if I'm going the way I was going. I take this for my heart arrhythmia, take this for pain, oxycodone for pain, and lorazepam for stress, cyclobenzaprine for muscle relaxer. Also take Topamax and Prozac. And I also use a CPAP machine to help me breathe. And my asthma has been so bad this past year. I use it during the day as well to get some air. I am tired when I wake up. I'm tired during the day. I take a nap. I'm still tired. I can't breathe. And I know I need to make a change for my health, or else I'm not going to be here for my family.
When we speak of heart disease, I would say the role of alcohol is pretty small. The role of sugar is very small too. Smoking is big, but the good news is that most people have quit or never did smoke. The problem with animal-based diet, its contribution to heart disease is huge and it is pervasive.
All this expensive imaging, procedures, bypasses, medication, none of which has one solitary single thing to do with the causation of the illness. So we die of a completely benign foodborne illness that never had its causation treated.
When we eat these kind of dead meat bacteria toxins, within minutes, you get this burst of inflammation within your system, such that you basically paralyze your arteries. You get the stiffening of the arteries, their inability to relax normally and happy. So it's not like decades down the road eating unhealthy, there'll be some damage. No, we're talking damage right then and there, within minutes of it going into our mouth.
Many people are given the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease when it's not true Alzheimer's at all. The vast majority of people suffer dementia due to their tiny blood vessels in their brain clogging up and their nerve cells being shortchanged of oxygenated blood. And guess where that blood vessel dementia comes from? Those little tiny arteries are clogging up from that steady stream of fat, cholesterol, etc.
It's really quite clear from the standpoint of cancer and the standpoint of cardiovascular disease that animal protein plays an enormous role. Is chicken better? It's a question of whether you want to be shot or hung.
The flesh food that I would eliminate from the American diet would be poultry, would be turkey and chicken. We've really got this advertising campaign to convince people that, oh, it's white meat, it's healthier.
The leading source of sodium in the American diet for adult is chicken. It can be labeled all natural chicken, but be injected with the salt water, and up to 800 milligrams of sodium.
Heterocyclic are clear-cut carcinogens, and they can form in any kind of meat as it's heated, as it's cooked. But by far the biggest source is chicken. We sent researchers into fast food and family restaurants. Not only were there carcinogens in every single restaurant, but we found them in every single chicken sample that we took. If somebody brings their family in and they're buying a bucket of chicken, nobody tells them that there are carcinogens. If you're selling carcinogens to people, you've got to warn them that they're in there.
But the American Cancer Society encourages people to switch from red and processed meat to chicken. Why would the American Cancer Society tell people to switch from eating one carcinogenic food to another, when a Harvard University study showed that men with prostate cancer who eat large amounts of chicken increased their risk of the disease progressing 4 times?
The number one dietary source in America of cholesterol is chicken because of the volume of chicken. You know, chicken's become grilled chicken and organic chicken. It's machismo, but it has nearly as much cholesterol per gram as red beef. So just on sheer volume, it's the number one source. Yeah, eggs being close by.
I never really thought about eggs much. I just thought of them as a standard part of a healthy diet. But then I found a study suggesting that eating just one egg a day can be as bad as smoking 5 cigarettes per day for life expectancy.
The yolk of a hen's egg is the most concentrated gram of saturated fat and cholesterol. It is made to run a baby chicken for 21 days with no outside energy. It is pure fat and cholesterol. And when we put that into our bloodstream, it coats our red blood cells. Our blood gets thicker and more viscous. It changes our hormone levels. It raises our cholesterol levels. There's nothing healthy about eating yolk of the egg.
But I thought cholesterol and saturated fat wasn't an issue anymore.
You know, these saturated fat studies that have come out trying to vindicate saturated fat. There's a campaign by the dairy industry, right? Number one source of saturated fat is dairy, it's not meat. 2008, the global dairy industry got together at a meeting and explicitly agreed their agenda was to neutralize the negative impact of milk fat by regulators and medical professionals, unquote. So they do, they funded studies.
The main study that started the whole saturated fat media craze was funded by the National Dairy Council. The egg industry similarly funds studies that confuse consumers by making claims that eggs don't negatively affect heart function. That is, only when compared to eating a McDonald's sausage McMuffin. So what they're really saying is that eating eggs is just as bad as eating a McMuffin.
When you eat foods like beef or steak or a processed meat, a hot dog, you're not just getting saturated fat. You're also getting other additional toxins that are in that food, heme iron, carcinogens, processing chemicals. This is all a lot more complicated than just looking at saturated fat.
You know, the strategy is not on making the products be safer. The strategy is to just try to confuse the public, to introduce doubt. You know, there's a famous tobacco industry memo. It's called Doubt is Our Product. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to convince Americans that smoking was healthy. Right? They just had to introduce doubt. Then they would win. If there's just not controversy, people kind of throw up their hands. I don't know what the confusion is their game.
I really don't think people thought what they ate led to heart disease. They think, oh, it's genetic, my parents had it. I don't think people really think that what they ate led to diabetes. I think, oh, my parents had it, I was going to get it. And certainly cancer.
People have bad lifestyles that they've inherited environmentally. They've been exposed to a certain way of eating and living. They've carried on into their adulthood, passed on to their children. That is why they go on to develop the same diseases that their parents and grandparents may have had before them. But it is not inevitable.
Even if you have a genetic predisposition, doesn't mean it's going to necessarily manifest. And what determines whether it manifests or not, maybe those epigenetic variables, the things that you can control, the environmental factors, the dietary factors, the lifestyle factors.
So we actually change the expression of genes, tumor suppressing genes to activating genes by what we eat, what we put into our body. So, you know, even if you've been dealt a bad genetic deck, you can still reshuffle it with diet.
I always thought that I would develop heart disease at a young age because both my dad and grandpa had heart attacks. I was taught that they were genetic, but their heart attacks probably had less to do with genes and more to do with their diets high in meat. That's why when I went on the American Heart Association's Heart Healthy Recipes page, I could not believe they had an entire section on beef recipes. This was just like the American Cancer Society encouraging eating group 1 carcinogens on their site.
Meatloaf, pork loin, steak on your recipe list? Are you kidding me? It's like this menu is trying to give people heart attacks. Here, your website, we noticed Heart Healthy Recipes, and we're kind of bewildered by why there's a bunch of recipes on a whole section on beef recipes, and there's also a section on egg recipes when there's such a strong link between beef, red meat, and heart disease.
I honestly don't know because I don't do that. I guess that's not what I do.
Another organization rep that wasn't able to answer my questions, but he said that he'd have someone get in touch shortly. I was, however, able to talk to the president of the American College of Cardiology, Dr. Kim Williams.
The American College of Cardiology is a 47,000 member and growing organization with a dedicated mission to reduce heart disease and to improve patients' lives. And if you look at the incidence of hypertension and diabetes and mortality in men, they actually get reduced as you go higher and higher in terms of to restrict animal products.
What about fish?
So fish is a little different. You've got the four worries, which is PCBs, mercury, saturated fat, and cholesterol. And the cholesterol is all over the place. You can hit tuna and water, that would be almost less than a glass of milk, to salmon or tilapia, which is higher than a pork chop.
If you look objectively at fish, what you find is they become essentially mercury sponges. And that's why in many parts of the country, they warn you, don't have more than so many of these fish a week because it's getting too much mercury can kill you.
Fish are eaten by bigger fish who are eaten by bigger fish, and these pesticides and herbicides bioaccumulate in the fish flesh. And these big fish, including the salmon, people think is as healthy as fish. Truth is, the amount of pesticides and herbicides in the flesh of these fish are shocking, and they have estrogenic and cancer-promoting properties in them.
They'll say, well, but don't sardines have less concentration of toxic waste product than other ones? Something being less toxic doesn't make it healthy. It just makes it less toxic.
Farmed fish is by no means healthier. All the antibiotics that these animals have to be fed, similar to chickens and turkeys kept in confinement. These fish get infections. They get fungal infections, they get bacterial infections. You've got to feed them antifungals, antibiotics, and these substances accumulate in the fish flesh as well.
I always knew that pollution was bad for our health, but I never thought about the environmental pollutants affecting food.
Dioxins, being the most toxic man-made chemicals known to science, cause all sorts of things. They cause endometriosis, they cause cancers, they cause endocrine disruption problems. Most of your exposure, 93% of it, comes from eating meat and dairy products because it climbs up in the food chain so effectively. So you can get exposed to living near these incinerators and breathing it, but it'll take you 14 years to breathe in as much dioxin as a cow will ingest by eating the grass in one day. And that dioxin will accumulate in its fat, which includes the milk and the meat. And anyone eating meat or dairy products is going to get that dose of dioxin. So it climbs up the food chain every step. Men have no way in their bodies to get rid of dioxins, but women have two ways. They're both involving having a baby. One is that dioxin crosses the placenta into the growing infant, and the other is that it comes out from the breast milk. So if you have a meat and dairy consuming mother breastfeeding that infant, then the highest impacts of toxic exposure like mercury and dioxins will go to that infant.
Pregnant women are told of certain types of fish should be avoided. But what about all these other animal products which are introducing, imagine as the fetus is developing, introducing these very harmful toxins which create reproductive abnormalities, developmental problems, and hormonal issues right as the child is developing, the most critical stage of development.
It does make you worry. When people say, don't you want to have a little bit of milk because you're pregnant? Don't you want to have some fish because you're pregnant? Who do you think is going to get the chemicals that are in it?
All these environmental toxins and toxins from the feed that they're being fed accumulate in their tissues and are released into the mother and unfortunately to the child when you eat these products when you're pregnant. So this includes antibiotics, hormones, steroids in animal feed. Commercial animals are largely fed GMO corn and soy, which are very laden in pesticides. PCBs have been banned since the 70s, but they persist in the environment. Dioxins, all of these compounds can create hormonal, reproductive, developmental damage as well.
Eating organic beef, poultry, pork, or fish will not help you avoid contaminants like mercury, like dioxins, like strontium-90, because they fall out over all sorts of farm fields and water bodies, and they don't skip over the organic fields. And so really the contaminants are coming in regardless of how these animals are raised.
I had always been
Okay, right, that's one, okay, I think I'm going to show you all, kind of get a good idea. As you can see, we watched about 25 minutes and then the rest is, the whole thing is about an hour and a half. Okay, so I'm going to go to our slide here. All right, and okay, so before I start chatting with you all about this, about what's to come, but let's hear from you. Okay, so your thoughts.
Good, man.
What do we eat, right? This is what the question that I always get from my students. What food group I'm going to go hungry?
They said eggs are that bad.
but I eat a minimum of 4 eggs a day. So I'm kind of screwed, I guess.
But also, like, are all these experts vegan? I mean, I'm sure, I mean, the one lady was literally barbecuing, like, in the thing. So, like, it's good to know about it, but you can't just change your whole life because of it.
Right. Okay, so what, does it shift, was it like the eggs thing? Of course, I didn't know a few things. Eggs, that's going to be that harmful. The second one is fish. I always thought fish is slightly less harmful. I didn't know about, I kind of knew that about mercury and, but not that bad. So is anybody persuaded to try his program and join the program, pay a subscription? And all right. So okay. So anybody's mind shift next time? I don't know whether you guys have had dinner or you will go back home and have dinner. When you're going to have your dinner, are you going to think about this? How long will you think about this document? Will it has it made a kind of an everlasting impact? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's trying to scare you, but also if you read about all that stuff, I mean, I've read about it for a while.
Right.
Just like having vegetables in your diet reduces your cholesterol and stuff. So like if you just balance it out, you're not always eating burgers and stuff, like your body is made to function even with those toxins, like it'll get it out some way. So it's not like we're all gonna die because we're having burgers, I guess.
Okay, so yeah, it's moderation is the key. Tell me something, like what would it really take for you to join his program? Would anything that he would say would really push you? Nothing that he would do.
Maybe if I'm like obese or something, I don't know.
Oh, okay. If you were, okay, then that's a good point actually. That's a good transition. I'm going to transition from this, which you just said, and said if I was obese and if I had like real big health issue, then maybe I would have acted. That's a great, and that takes us to our. Is there anybody else wants to add to this? What would it take you?
I think if it was like 20 years ago before the internet, people probably would have signed up for it easier, but now it's just pretty simple to get information.
That is so true. That is so true because this was in 2017. So you actually think about it, not a whole lot of time. It's about 5 years back. But within these 5 years, there's so many programs that you can actually do and not really pay a subscription to do this. Okay. So let me, video is mute. Yes. So this, I'm going to transition from this point. You just mentioned that if I had real health issues, then maybe. So this is a good transition into what I'm going to be talking about. I wanted to talk to you about this concept today. This is called Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'm going to discuss this right now. So what Jan just mentioned is, if I was very severely unhealthy, then maybe I would have been motivated to maybe buy this, sign up for this program, which which actually takes us to this. So basically, why are we doing this? We're trying to understand needs, and what he just mentioned, if my need was that bad, then I would have been motivated to buy his program. So the reason we are talking about this is because in order to be motivated, you need to have strong needs, okay? So needs and level of motivation is directly correlated. Higher the need, higher is your motivation level. So if you're like, so something that you always remember, if you're very thirsty and somebody sells a cool, cool Gatorade or, some sugary drink into that, and you're very thirsty, of course you're going to buy that. So because there's a high need, so the motivation for you to buy is high. So need and motivation. And so this is one of the basic models that we study. Just to go back to this model, this was created by Abraham Maslow. He actually existed during the early 1900s, and he passed away in 1950, mid-century, and he was only 50 years old. And so we don't know, had he lived beyond 1950, maybe he would have changed this, or maybe he would have added some more needs. But again, you can see that was 1950. He created this. This came out in a journal of it was like a multidiscipline psychology and sociology. So it was a multidisciplinary journal that was this whole idea, this whole theory was featured there. This theory has been used in a lot of disciplines. For myself, I'm going to talk about myself here. When I was in college and I went to a teacher's college in India, I learned about this in an education psychology class when I was learning how to understand what students need and how do you use teaching methods to teach students. So student needs was also we learned about student needs through this theory. A lot of in business schools when you're teaching how to persuade, how to sell campaigns, how to sell programs, they use this theory as well in business schools. There is a lot of education schools who are teaching, again, just like me. I learned it in education psychology class. They learn this theory. So it has multiple applications. And of course, for speech, because we need to know what is it that most human beings need. If we understand that, we'll understand a good chunk of human psychology. Okay, if we understand how the human mind works and the different kinds of needs human beings have, we'll be able to really strategize our speech, understand the needs, and really tap on those needs and create a good persuasive maybe even a debate speech. So that's why we're doing this. Now, a lot of people have critiqued this. Of course, with any model, with any theory, there comes people who actually look at it and say that, oh, this is good, this is bad. So there are a lot of critics here who feel that maybe all human needs are not there. I agree. Okay, so this person died in 1950. So many years have passed. Now, if we look at it, I don't think all the human needs are featured here. But I can at least say that I think this is a good human generalization of needs for an average person. I think so. Now, a lot of people have controversies regarding, okay, if you look at these five needs, it shows that there's an order of these needs. So this one is like the most important need, okay? And then it becomes, I won't call it lesser and lesser. They call it the higher order needs, and then this is the lower order needs, okay? So in order to survive, you really need the higher order needs. And people have, people interject and they say, no, for me, I cannot live with love and that's the most important need. Some people will say, no, for me, self-esteem, that's the most important, I cannot meet it. So people again go back and forth. But I think this is a pretty safe and pretty well thought tier of hierarchy. As you can see, know from the name itself, it's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So he's created these needs. He's looked at human beings. He's studied human beings, and on the basis of his study, he's created a pattern of needs that human beings have, and he's also created a structure ranking of the needs. So the first need that he says, without which no human being can survive, which is physiological needs, which means it's almost like a physical need, okay, without which we will not survive. For example, we need food, we need water, we need shelter, okay, without which that's a basic human primal need without which nobody will survive. So he's called that physiological need, okay. So if you think about speech topics, for example, the whole thing, today's the one that you watch, this was about food, okay, that if we eat food that is very heavy in antibiotics, meat, which has very high level of type 1 carcinogens, causing cancer, causing diabetes, all of the food that has been fed to us by the meat industry causes us to have chronic illnesses. So that's the topic. We need good, strong, good organic food for us to have good nutrition to survive, right? And his whole speech was actually attacking this need, the whole need that we said that we want to survive. And to Gyan's point, he said that if I'm thinking about my life, and if I know that, I might not be able to live for the next, few years, and I'm concerned about my life, then I think, looking at food and looking at the fact that the food that is being fed to me will create more ill health for me, then I will be persuaded to make a change. So that's what he said, and I think that's the whole thing about food. Even in terms of water contaminants. Okay, speeches about how there's water pollution. Speeches about we need to make our water purer. All of that is important for our basic need, because if we don't have clear water, we have pollutants in the water, we'll not live. So that's like the basic primal instinct for us to live. Okay. So all of these, you can think about breathing, even air. Okay, air purifiers. The fact that we have unhealthy air because of pollutants or because of global warming, all of that will create an unhealthy environment. So that's again all the speech topics that threaten our breathing, our clean air, our right to clean air, right to good food, right to good water is all goes against, or it's talking about a basic human need to survive, survive well. Okay. After this, he says that once human beings have their physiological needs all met, we move a little higher up. This is still, we call it this. These are the lower level, as you can see, the level. These are lower level needs. Okay. Again, lower level needs doesn't mean that it is less important. It means that these are basic for us to survive. All right. So this next need is the safety need. Okay. Every human being wants to feel safe. Right now, I got notified on my phone today that DuPage County is now no longer in the low zone for COVID risk. Now it's gone escalated. I don't know how many you know. We are now in a moderate zone again, back. Okay. So, hopefully we don't get into the high zone, because then again, mass mandate and closures and all of that will happen. So we all want to feel safe. That's a safety need. You can see so many campaigns happening, so many masks, and all these topics are happening because we are feeling threatened. For example, even employment. We a lot of people have lost jobs. We have employment insurance. We have we in terms of property, we want to feel safe. We buy home insurance. In terms of in terms of the family, we feel that okay, let's buy a life insurance for at least for ourselves, so that if something happens to me, my family is secured. All of these things. Why do people do it? Because they want to feel safe, not only for themselves but also for their family. That's the second need, human need that human beings have, is the need to feel safe. And so many schemes, so many topics come out of this whole need of a human being to feel safe. The third one is love and belongingness. Human beings, this is like the mid, as you can see, you're moving from the physiological safety to the third tier, which is love and belongingness. And typically, human beings do not want to live by themselves. We don't want to feel, no one wants to feel lonely. We want to feel loved. We want to be in a family. We want to belong to a community. That's a primary need that we have. And when that is threatened, there is some kind of a discomfort. Okay, so most people want to feel loved and belongingness, and they want to belong to a community. And you can see that a lot of in places where perhaps same-sex marriage is not considered, then the whole thing about love and belongingness is being violated. So a lot of topics are coming out of that also. So that's the whole thing about love and belongingness, creating these groups. Now we have the emergence of social media. So many groups are being created, especially during the pandemic. We saw the emergence of so many online groups that started happening. The whole thing about Zoom becoming one of the big, really zooming in business. Why? This whole pandemic created Zoom, right? So you think about that the love and belongingness, people using Zoom for business. I think I use Zoom for family FaceTime calls and all of that during the pandemic. So that's the third tier, which is love and belongingness. After that, we're moving higher. From this point onwards, it becomes higher needs, which doesn't mean that it's more important or less important. But once, what he says, Maslow says, is that once the lower level needs are met, then a person starts aspiring for higher levels. If this is not met, you can't move on. A lot of people critique that as well. They say, no, that for me, first will be self-esteem. I'm like, okay, if you don't get food and water, how can you think about self-esteem, right? So, okay. So we are getting higher here. This is self-esteem need. most people want to feel a sense of respect. We want to respect others, and we also want to be respected by others. So you don't want to, I'm not talking about an unhealthy, very high self-esteem, which is slightly unhealthy, but I'm talking about a healthy self-esteem. Here, again, you can think about topics like bullying, right? Bullying is why do people bully? If you think about that, kind of makes them feel better about themselves. Perhaps they have a low self-esteem, and by bullying somebody else, they start feeling good about themselves. But typically, that's what people think when people indulge in bullying. So self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect of others, respect by others is a human need that people have. Now we're going to the highest category. Now, absolutely at the tip of the pyramid. That is what we call is self-actualization. And that's when most of the other needs have been met and you just want to be the best version of yourself, okay? That's what, when you think about self-actualization, Maslow calls it, the human being wants to be the best version of himself or herself. That's also a need. And there's several categories in that one. So if a lot of people have this thirst for knowledge, they just love to read. They just love to, they're information junkies. They love to read new ideas, understand new ideas. A lot of people have that thirst for knowledge. A lot of people have that, that love and the need for aesthetics, looking at beautiful things, creating beautiful things, paintings, architecture. A lot of people, you can also think about, wants to become when you say the best version of yourself. They want to be, they want to accept most people or most ideas. They don't want to have a bias, or in other words, they're more tolerant towards different ideas, different cultures. So that's also a need that people have, is that once I want to get into a situation when I'm going to be all embracing, I'm going to be more tolerant towards differences. That's the need. The morality, creativity, this is all higher level of needs. Is that when you're thinking about good morals, you're thinking about aspiring towards being a good person with a good sense of morals. You're thinking about when you're thinking about you being a more creative person. All of this will get you become the best version of yourself. There's also another aspect which is not mentioned here, but in terms of self-actualization, there's another aspect to it which we call self-transcendence. Self-transcendence, which means that you are transcending from what you are. Okay, so you're becoming higher. You're becoming higher than yourself. This happens usually. You can think about human beings as finite, right? That one day we'll all have to die. We know that, right? But how do you become infinite? You become infinite by creating a legacy. That means after you die, you have created enough in the world through your work, through your art, through your contribution, through your finance, that the next generation and the next generation will get, will value your contribution. So there are some people, like for example, I think Steve Jobs, we all use their, this Apple phone and everything. So has created a legacy, right? Has created Apple and has created that legacy that we are still continuing. Most people, philanthropists, people who have left fortunes and contributed towards for humanity. They are the ones who create legacies even after they're gone, but we are still able to use their resources. So that's what we call it self-transcendence. When you're no longer thinking about yourself, you're no longer thinking about your own needs. You're no longer thinking about your physiological needs, your own safety needs. You're actually now thinking about other human beings. That's what we call a self-transcendence need, and that happens at the highest level. That's also a need. Why do we? You can think about this. Is that sometimes when we go to the grocery store and they tell us, okay, would you like to sort of contribute $1 for breast cancer, right? And when you do that $1, we contribute the $1. It sometimes makes us feel good. Okay, good. I've done something good to someone. That's a need that we have. Okay, so that's what we call a self-transcendence. We are no longer thinking about yourself. That $1 could go to my bank balance. No, it's going for somebody else. We're doing something good. So there's a need for that. All right. So this is what we call is this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is how it looks. Okay. Any questions, class? Any of these needs got slightly muddy? More examples needed? Yeah.
Is it like you have to fulfill all of the below ones for you to reach
Good.
self-actualization?
Good question. So this is what I would say. Maslow, if you had asked, Maslow, he would probably say that if you do not, you need to be physically, in a safe place, or physically healthy, or you need to feel safe to understand, to go to the higher level needs. A lot of people have also said that this is what makes us the distinction between man and animals, right? Animals need to feel, they need to breathe good air, food, water, and all of that. Animals also feel the need to feel safe, right? That's a need. Animals also feel love and belongingness. Now, what distinguishes between animal needs and us is that self-esteem, yeah, maybe a little, I don't know how we can think about it, but self-actualization is something that really makes it human. So that's a very intrinsic human need, no longer animal needs, right? So that's it. So for us to go there, I would say, Maslow would say that, yeah, you got to be fulfilled in some of these basic needs.
From maybe my perspective, I would think that sometimes the absence of some of those, like esteem, love, for safety, or belonging, like the absence of some of them, not completely forgetting about the importance,
right.
The absence of, or the hardships of like some of those categories might actually give you more self-actualization. Don't you think so? Like the absence of it, and knowing that, like, it's absent actually gives you more self-actualization.
Self-actualization. Can you give me a context there?
Maybe like having the hardship with family or friendship. It might not be the best place that you want to be in,
right,
but like it's not fulfilled per se, but it actually lead you to self-actualization, about morality, about problem solving.
Very interesting. Yes, I would agree with you that something there was a lack there.
Yeah, because like you said, like for some people, self-esteem might be more important than safety and stuff like that. Right. So I feel like it's a good structure for us to like follow, but I feel like it's not as how it is supposed to be. It's not black and white, I think.
Absolutely. Yes, that's what most critics would say. It's not black and white. What works for you, you can just shift the order according to your need, and not all needs. I'll give you a set. Not all needs have been. This was again this his work. He died in 1950, so we are looking at almost 70 years. The historical moment has changed. Mm-hmm. Our needs have changed. A lot of new movements have happened. He's not aware of it. We would like to see if he was here today, how he would have looked at the model, what would he have added.
But I feel like it's a great structure.
It's a great structure. I think for an average, window of the kind of needs, I think it's comprehensive. Mm. But could it be better? Of course. I mean, almost 70 years have passed. Nobody has worked on this more. So, okay. So this is what it's important for us to understand this. And now what I want to do is with you, any questions? Any? Okay, all right. So what I want to do with you is about 8:35. And it's a little bit of a task, but if you go to in-class assignment, I already have that for you. And actually, you know what? Before I talk about it, class, I just take a little, because I don't want to lose that. I want to talk to you about your next your upcoming assignment. Okay, so I'll talk to you about it in class. Let me just go. I don't want to lose this moment. I think somebody left the class. Anyway, I'll repeat that. Okay. So what you have, class, you can see. 1 second. It's just on my head now. This is just on my head. Okay. So what I have done in your what I mean? 1 second. Goliath one. It's not this one, right? It's not our class. 1 second. No, not this. Home assignment. Yeah. Yes, that's. Okay, 1 second. Here. Okay. No, it's May 1st. Okay, so on May 1st class, this is what you need to do. By 11:59, you need to submit this. So if you, I want you to, you know what, it did not come. So it's already on that computer and it did not come here. Okay, 1 second, I'll just put it there. It didn't come through for some reason. Oh, goodness. Come on. There you go, I already have it here. Okay. Have it here. And then it's strange to be showing up here. Why isn't it show up? My institution on class here. Class month, assignment. Yeah, there's no one in here. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Have it now. Good job. Okay. Yeah, oh, I don't know why it didn't come out. Okay. So this is what you need to do for May 1st. So by Sunday, by next Sunday, by 11:59 p.m., I need 3 sources. You need to give me, first of all, you need to do this, okay? You need to give me an area of interest, all right? Which means you're going to see this will, we'll do an exercise right now, which will give you some ideas. But let's say I'm giving an example here. So for example, I need you to give me an area. It could be sports, it could be entertainment, it could be business, whatever you're interested in. For me, like I like healthcare, okay? So I'll give you an example here. For me, it's healthcare, so I put healthcare here. Then give me a broad topic. So for example, with healthcare, I'm interested to know about the mask mandates. So wearing masks during a pandemic, still a broad topic, doesn't really show what I'm trying to claim or the argument that I'm trying to make. So that's a broad topic. And then I have a specific claim, a specific topic or claim, where I say that mandating masks in public places in the state of Illinois. So I'm kind of really making sure that people go back to wearing masks or maybe in some places, in some public places in the state of Illinois, where this is a position that I'm taking. I'm sure I'll have 7 opponents who don't agree with me. So it's a debate speech. The first place you can have a debate speech, right? And I have that. So I want you all to come up with the area of interest, a broad area of interest. I want you all to give me a broad topic. I want you to give me a claim and then tell me why, which I did not put, but why are you motivated to talk about this topic? Okay, I am motivated to talk about this topic because of the rising cases that I'm seeing. I did not see so far. Actually, you know what? Within these past few since February, actually since March, I have, even during the pandemic, I didn't see so many of my students getting COVID as much as I'm seeing after the mask mandate has been removed. So I'm really seeing that in so many of my classes. There are like 2, 3 students, and not only them, it's sometimes their children, their parents. One of them is sick, so they are like, they can't. But nowadays it's like 5 days. But it's much less severe. But I'm seeing a lot of my students right after the mask mandate. So that's why I'm motivated to talk about this topic. All right. So I have that. So you need to fill in this. And then I would like you to create an annotated bibliography. Whatever your topic is, I want you to give me a book that you're using, or an article or a site, if it's an internet site, whatever you want to talk to the librarian, and tell them that this is my topic and you give me some sources. You can do that. They're always ready to help. You don't have to come in. There's a chat section. They'll just do it online. So whatever, I need 3 sources, and you need to pull in this by next Sunday by midnight. So I wanted to talk to you about. Okay. Now, having said that, the in-class assignment that I want you to do, We just covered Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I would like you to work on this one, okay? So if you go to in-class assignment, this should take about 10 to 15 minutes maximum. So try to do as much as you can, okay? If this is sports, I don't know why this one did not get highlighted, but this is actually sports. I have topics, persuasive, controversial, debate-like topics. Sports, I have education, I have society, environment, science and technology, social media, government, religion, parenting and family, entertainment, art and humanities, and health, okay? I want you all to quick and as much as you can do. Again, doesn't matter if you're not able to do, I'm not expecting, if you can do like maybe as many as you can do within 10, 15 minutes. I would like you to read the topic and then tell me what need is it talking about. For example, should high school athletes get tested for steroids? In terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what need is it touching on? Can somebody tell me? Should high school athletes get tested for steroids? Safety need, right. Should schools be required to have physical education courses?
No. Psychological.
Physiological. Okay, there you go. So I want you all to do, and you can just do it quickly, like, you do a cut, copy, paste, and then just don't even have to write the full thing. That's P for physiological, safety, S, self-actualization, SE, self-esteem, SE. Okay, so something like that. Just try to see how many you can do, and then tell me if you have already, and then I want to know whether you guys already have some interest. Okay, so it's right there. Try to do this as much as you can. You might see that there could be 2 or 3 needs. It doesn't mean that every need is going to be one. You just got to have one need. It could be a self-actualization. So I'm going to, you already have this. I'm just going to put this one for you. It's going to be easier to have that on. Okay. Question I can do the assignment. So if you can go to in-class assignment, which is talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you go to in-class assignment with a bunch of topics, you can do as many as possible. Like what's given them about 15 minutes. As many as you can do. And then count it. All right. You can do, whatever you've done, and that's fine if you've done. If you want to know what your top 3 top picks were, let's hear, Josh, which one did you do?
Remember, I'm supposed to do like all of them?
No, not at all.
Oh,
Not
I
at
think I
all.
did this assignment like wrong. I was just like going through them.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too.
Should high school athletes be tested for
too.
steroids? Safety? Should schools be required to
That's what I'm doing.
have physical
Yeah.
education courses, physiological, like stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
I
Okay.
didn't like
Yeah.
write anymore. I don't know, but I did it for like a lot of them.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Okay. What?
I did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which is you?
I made it through parenting and family health and society.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you want to discuss? Tell us a few.
Sure.
Okay. You don't have to do. It's not possible to do this. Even if you do 2 or 3, that's fine.
Okay. I guess for society, should all public restrooms be age, gender, and sex?
Which one?
All gender, should public restrooms be all gender esteem? Should
Ah,
documented immigrants have the same employment and education opportunities as citizens esteem?
Okay.
Should everyone be paid a living wage regardless of their employment esteem? Really, a lot of them in society, I felt like.
Okay.
esteem.
Okay. A lot of your case team. All right. Yeah. What do you have?
I think I chose a lot more about education work, because that's the only one.
That's good. That's the intent, that you will figure out what your, what area you like. That was the intent. Okay.
I did, should schools officers, no, should school officers sign classes explicitly about mental health? And I put that as safety.
Very good. Okay. Safety. Yeah.
And then, should schools be required to teach about standardized testing?
Yeah. What would that be?
I put that in esteem.
Yes, I would say yes. Self-esteem. Yeah, and also a little bit of self-actualization. Yeah, maybe no, but I think more of self-esteem. Yeah.
And the last one, are private high schools more effective than public high schools? I also put that as esteem.
Okay. Yeah. Self-esteem. Yeah. I won't put love and belongingness. No, I won't put. Yeah, I think the self-esteem. Yeah, a lot of it will also get into self-actualization. You see, the ones that I did. But yeah, so this is a good start. This is a good point. So you can see, you can choose any of the topics that I hear. It's all on Blackboard. If you want, you can choose. If you don't have to choose any of the topics that's here, you can choose any topic that you want to. But it's important for you to know, because this will kind of give you a good feel of, where you're inclining towards. Okay. So try to do a topic that you are interested in, and think about it in this way, that, if you're having a conversation with your friends, family, whoever you like, you're close to, or, you feel like that's a safe place or for you to explore, I would like you to think about, what kind of topics do you gravitate towards? What kind of topics do you like to debate, with friends, family about, okay? Choose a topic that you like to debate about, okay? Also think about the kind of people you're comfortable with. What's your safe place? Do you like to argue and have an opinion with your family, with your close friends, with people who you don't know, maybe on social media? You post your opinions on Twitter. Do you do that? Do you post it on Facebook? Where do you put your opinions? Where do you like to? Do you like to argue? So think about all of that, and think about the topics that you like to, where there's an opinion, where we go back and forth. Pick a topic like that, and out of all of this, maybe you'll find your topic. You may not, and you can choose any other topic. So that's what you guys need to do. Get the topic, get the broad topic, get the claim going. I need to know what your claim is, and then I need to have the 3 sources so that we can right away start. I'm going to talk about 2 templates that you could use. You could either use Monroe's motivated sequence, and the second one that I'll be teaching you is the Toulmin's model of argumentation. So we're going to discuss both, and that's the most challenging part of this course. And we are heading to our end now. So we're going to discuss all of that. And in class, I'll have all the sources. You have the 3 sources, and I'm going to ask you to work on the 2 models, the 2 templates that I discussed in class, and create your persuasive debate speech in class. Okay. By next class, we're going to do that. In class, we're going to do that. Okay, so by that time, by the end of the class, you can just hit submit and we'll be done and, we'll be all ready, and then other things that we need to do, we'll do it later. And so that's it. So thank you very much, class. I'll see you next week. Good night, all of you. All right. Just quickly, hopefully everybody's turned in the peer evaluations to me, and the in-class assignment, whatever, 1, 2, 3, whatever you could complete, just send, hit submit. Okay. Your grades have been posted for your speech. I will give you your comments and everything in our next class. We didn't have the time, so next class I have all that. Get these comments. I'll send you. All right. Yes. You want to drop it?
Yeah.
Yes. So, all right. So just continue. Okay, bye. Thank you. All right.